Now, the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
Wide open, a total bust, and Wickes running free. Oh, the run for an Ohio State touchdown.
We've all been in these adverse situations.
Ohio State steamrolls on, and the Spartans lose 4 in a row now.
It's a reality check in terms of, okay, this is what we need to do now because we've all been there.
Week 7 of the college football season is here, and Michigan State is still in search of its first win in the Big Ten after falling to Ohio State 49-20. Mel Tucker said after the game he had someone tell him it looked like JV versus varsity out there against the Buckeyes. They did put up 614 yards of total offense. However, Tucker and his staff made a point to show the players where it didn't look like that was the case in the game, and it's where we begin our chat this week. You brought up an interesting point in terms of after the game against Ohio State. You had someone mention to you that it looked like varsity versus junior varsity out there.
Right.
But you made a major point to show your guys where it didn't.
Sure.
How did that resonate with them?
It does resonate with them because it's on the film and they can see it. And then not only do they see it, then we can also point out to them, this is why we were able to have success on this play, whether it was communication, technique, or fundamental, whatever it is. And the goal is to get 11 guys to run the same play correctly on a play, and that's what happens on those plays. And so it certainly does resonate with them.
Where's the one area where you really want to see them get it right this week in practice? If you maybe had to pick defense, offense, or special teams, but just what's the one you want to see the most improvement?
Yep, communication is critically important. That's how you ensure that everyone's on the same page on every play. And so our communication has to improve. And it's not just amongst the players, but it's player to coach, coach to player, player to player, coach to coach. We have to all make sure that we're on the same page.
Do you think the 4-game losing streak, there hasn't been that communication?
No, it's not been consistent, and that's why we're inconsistent. And a lot of the plays that we show our players, it is a lack of communication. And so that's something that we can attack. I first asked the staff in the team meeting, I said, how many coaches or support staff have been in a situation like this where you've lost a few games in a row? And all of them raised their hand. Almost every single one of them raised their hand. And I said, okay, and I asked the players to look around the room, because all the support staff, they're in the back of the room. Everyone has their hand up. And I said, and I raised my hand as well. How many of you as players have been in a situation at any point in your career in sports, any sport, where you lost a few games in a row? And almost every single one of the players raised their hand. I said, so, you've been here before. You should be able to draw on that experience. Okay? How did that particular team respond, positively or negatively? Okay? And what was the outcome? If the team responded negatively, you should be able to draw upon that and say, listen, that's not how you do it. The team has responded positively, you should be able to rely on that experience and say, okay, success leaves clues. Okay, this is how we need to respond. Because we've all been in these adverse situations. Okay, and so it's a reality check in terms of, okay, this is what we need to do now because we've all been there.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I was looking at something, and do you remember the date, November 16th, 1991?
November 16th, 1991. I think I was a player at Wisconsin. We played Minnesota. We were on the road. Mm-hmm. We were playing in the Metrodome. Yeah.
So you had a game-winning play that resulted in a win for Wisconsin over Minnesota. Snapped a 19-game Big Ten losing streak.
Yeah.
And it sort of, not just that play, but there were some things that happened for you guys to go on to eventually, kind of turn the tide in a sense. So when you speak to being in adverse situations, I just thought it was a little bit relatable that, yeah, you have been in a situation where you've lost a lot of games, but then also it's kind of crazy how one play or one thing can kind of turn the tide.
Yeah, and the difference between, winning and losing losing is I mean, it can be one play. Football being a game of inches. Showed them a profile of Vince Lombardi, because some of these guys don't know who Vince Lombardi is. Arguably the greatest coach in history of the game, college or pro. And he said, you know, football is a game of inches.
How much do you draw to of when you were a player for Barry, and then just sort of how it correlates to maybe some of the challenges that you've had to go through as a head coach?
Yeah, I draw on that experience quite a bit. All of the experiences that I've had as a player in any sport, you know, growing up, whether Little League or, you know, middle school, high school, college, and then as a coach, we go through these experiences like in sports, because in sports, like, there's always adversity. Football is not a game of perfect, so there's always going to be something that needs to be corrected. There's always going to be something to learn from. And at Wisconsin, my freshman year, starting, you know, 1-10 my freshman year, you know, you learn a lot from that experience, and I learned a lot from watching my coaches.
You brought up something too that I thought was pretty interesting when it came to the game against Ohio State, you know, how the fans left about in the third quarter-ish of that game. You were asked about them leaving, and you said that you didn't expect any unconditional support from anyone, not even your dogs, who are there behind you, PJ and KJ.
Right.
Where does that mentality and mindset come from?
Just from experience, you know, just from, you know, being in athletics for, you know, a very, very long time. I've coached over, you know, like 325 games, you know, college and pro, so you get so many different experiences. And I realized early in my career that, you know, you're not going to get unconditional support from anyone. You know, it's a production business, and everyone wants to win. And so that's the expectation, is to win games and look good doing it. And so I don't expect our fans to have any lower expectations from us, and I don't expect unconditional support from anyone. That's just not been my experience. It's not a reality.
The Badgers are coming to East Lansing with a lot of momentum. They just beat Northwestern to give Jim Leonard his first win as interim coach at Wisconsin, and quarterback Graham Mertz matched a career high with 5 touchdowns. He's a guy Spartan linebacker Ben Van Sumerin will have his eyes on Saturday, and he sits down with us when we come back.
As we go to break, Farm Bureau Insurance invites you to register to win an exclusive private dinner with head coach Tom Izzo. Go to InsideTheGreenSweeps.com to register.
At MSU FCU, we believe managing your finances should be easy. That's why we offer totally green checking with no monthly fees, no minimum balance, and tons of account features you'll love, like free bill payment and mobile deposit, free access to your credit score, and much more. Plus, you can easily manage your money anytime, anywhere with the free mobile app. Stop by a branch, give us a call, or visit us online and open your totally green checking account today.
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
With so many issues surrounding Michigan State's football team, you could argue one of the most consistent areas of play this season has been the defense. One key contributor is Spartan linebacker Ben Van Sumerin. In 2022, he's already amassed 4 times the number of tackles he had in all of 2021. And as he shared with our Haley Showingart, some of the best experiences in life are the ones you don't see coming.
Tyler gets it, trying to get to the edge, cannot get there, will not get there. Van Sumerin, the TFL, on a loss of 7.
Ben Van Sumerin has become quite the force on the defensive side of the ball for the Spartans, but defense was never something he even considered until he reached the collegiate level.
In high school, you were quite the wide receiver. What was it like?
Being a wide receiver? It's a little different from what I do now, but I mean, at the time, that's all I really knew. I was an offensive player in high school. At the time, I thought that's all I was going to be, but when I started getting offers and getting recruited to college, everybody said that you're going to be a defensive player, and I didn't really believe it. My high school coaches kind of said, you know what, you're gonna play offense, but here I am years later, a linebacker, and I mean, I think everybody was right all along. I think I should have been a linebacker.
And being the first Power 5 player to come from your high school, was it always a goal of yours to do that?
Yeah, I would say it is. When I was in high school, I knew really nothing about the recruiting process. Guys that I looked up to were guys that played D3, D2 football, and they were great players. And when I went through the process, you know, and I started getting offers and recruited by bigger schools, it was all new to me. And I actually just told this story today, but a lot of people don't know I actually committed to Western Michigan for about a week or 2 weeks when I was like 15 years old, because I didn't know the process. My dad didn't know the process, my high school coaches didn't, so I didn't really have a ton of guidance. But recruiting was a whole learning experience for me. I really do believe when they say, like, if you're good enough, they will find you. I genuinely believe that, and you know, like I said, it was a learning experience. Nobody had really done it before, and I'm grateful.
You transferred from the University of Michigan. What was it about Michigan State that really made you want to be a Spartan?
I think I wanted to stay close to home. I'm from Michigan, I'm from Bay City, Michigan originally. My brother was going through the recruiting process when I was in the transfer portal, and this is one of the places that he was high on too. So we kind of made a decision together that we were going to come here. I really like the culture here. I like what Coach Tuck's doing with the program, and the coaching staff for me. I mean, I really like them. I like the scheme and stuff that we do here. So Michigan State's what's right for me.
You are not the only Van Sumerin on the football roster. What is it like playing with your little brother?
It's great. I love it. I get to see him every day, whereas before, you know, over the last 4 years, I only got to see him really on game days or recruiting weekends when he was up there in recruiting business. So it's great seeing him. It's great seeing him develop really, even since he's been here. He's been here since last January, and he's grown so much. So just seeing him, whether it be from when he was in high school to where he is now, it's great. And it's great having my parents up here every weekend for games. And I love it. I haven't played a sport with him since middle school. I played middle school basketball. That was the last time I played with him.
So I have heard that you have another passion other than just football, acting. Tell me a little bit about how you got into that.
So acting is something I'd like to pursue after football. When I was in high school, my senior year of high school, going into my last semester, I was filling out my class schedule, and I took an acting class with a couple of my friends. We actually had a great time, and I was better than I thought I would be. I remember the teacher complimenting that I was a good actor and I should pursue it someday. So when I went to my previous institution, I did some of the acting. I did the film and stuff like that for probably a year, and I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I had to stop doing it because of class scheduling and stuff with football, but it's definitely something that I want to pursue after football.
If you could pick a dream movie to be the star of, what would it be and why?
The Great Gatsby. I want to be Leo.
Van Sumerin has been called upon a little bit more this year due to all of the injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And one of the goals this week is to limit the number of points the Badgers put on the board as well as total yards. Michigan State is giving up 528 yards of total offense on average during its 4-game skid. All right, it's time for us to take a quick timeout, but when we come back, we're going to hone in on another team on campus who is in the midst of one of its most successful seasons in a decade.
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
Every athlete's goal is to do better from one year to the next, but for Michigan State forward Jordan Wickes, she has surpassed her expectations in her sophomore season. She has scored twice as many goals as she did last year as a freshman, and it's one reason why the MSU women's soccer team is nationally ranked for the first time since 2009. And when she sat down with our Nick Mantis, she talked about another sport she likes to dominate in.
The high-flying Jordan Wickes has already surpassed her career numbers in her sophomore season as a Spartan.
When you think about this season, you came into this season with 2 goals to your name. Now you have 5. What has been the difference between year 1 and year 2 being here at Michigan State?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me is coming in as a freshman. There was so much excitement just to be on the field, be surrounded by these players I kind of grew up looking up to. You know, the Lauren Kozels, the Gia Wahlbergs, Ava Cooks, being able to share the field with them, I think I was filled with more excitement just to be out there and to be able to produce anything. Whereas coming into the sophomore year, I kind of more established, was able to grow that confidence, know I belong out here, and it's not just like a freshman thing where it's all just full of nerves and excitement. There was a lot of things freshman year that, like, mentally I think I've changed going into sophomore year.
When you think about the last couple of matches, 3 goals in 4 matches, it's probably one of those things you kind of maybe want to shy away from, like knowing how successful you've been. But what's it been like for you personally to be on this little run of having almost a goal every single match you guys play?
I mean, it's an incredible feeling to be able to know that I can go out there and make a difference consistently. It's an amazing feeling because, like I said, I had 2 goals to my name last year. Being able to kind of really step it up and do it not only in the Big Ten conference play, it's a huge confidence boost, and I can't really describe it. It's an incredible feeling to be able to consistently do that at such a high level.
Coach kind of mentioned you were probably the best sub that he's ever had. Obviously, everybody wants to be a starting forward, but to be the best sub, what's that feel like?
My parents sent me like a little clip. He said it called me a super sub.
Man, what an incredible goal by Jordan, to lift us once again. That's 4 games. She's just been that super sub for us.
And, you get a good laugh out of it, but knowing that he believes in me to kind of make that immediate impact coming off the bench, it's a big deal. I want to make a difference out here on the field in whatever way I can, and if my opportunities are coming off the bench and being able to make that difference, I'm going to try to capitalize and make the most out of it regardless of what it looks like. So it's good, nice to hear that he has that confidence in me, knowing that I'm able to come in, even if it is off the bench and make an impact.
When you were in high school, you were kind of a do-it-all athlete, knowing that you played basketball, obviously soccer, and then also ran track. Knowing you're playing Division I soccer right now, but if you couldn't play soccer at the D1 level, which one, between basketball and track, which one would you dominate people at?
I would think I would have to go basketball. I was a point guard in high school, and I absolutely loved the sport, although I did hurdles for track, and the track community and track people, I think I would love to continue to be a part of. I still have a friend that goes here, Emily Bardwell, who runs track. She speaks very highly of it. So I don't know, that's a tough one. I kind of want to do it all still, but I think I'd probably end up with basketball.
An interesting tidbit that was given to us by Coach Hostler was, if you were to choose basketball, how bad would you lose to Coach Hostler in a one-on-one match in basketball?
That's a lot of confidence for someone who consistently lost this summer to his team. So, I don't know. I'd recruit Maggie Illig and we'd maybe, cross him up a little bit, but he wouldn't stand a chance.
Knowing the competitive nature of the women's soccer program, you're going to want to buy some tickets to see Coach Hostler take on his players in a hoops game. And speaking of Jeff Hostler, he's going to join us on the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show when we come back, and you're not going to want to miss our conversation.
Closed captioning sponsored by Hearing Life, helping Spartans love their ears. With 41 locations across Michigan, go to hearinglife.com to take a free online hearing test.
Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
For the first time since 2009, the MSU women's soccer team is nationally ranked, coming in at number 15 this week in the United Soccer Coaches poll. The Spartans are cruising after their best start in Big Ten play in program history and recently beat rival and reigning Big Ten champion Michigan right here at DeMartin Stadium. It was a sweet, sweet victory for East Lansing native and women's soccer coach Jeff Hostler.
It's a day that I think a lot of we'll remember for a long time, and man, it was a lot of fun. You use that word a lot, where the fun is in the work, the reward is in the work, but all the way around, it was a really fun day.
What type of energy does that provide for a team when you're playing your rival, you look up, it's a packed stadium, and just the atmosphere is sort of off the charts?
Yeah, walking out, we first come through the gates, they play, the fight song for us, and there are already 1,000 people here an hour before kickoff. So it's all energy generating for us. They want to be able to showcase what they can do and do it on the big stage, and to do it with that crowd, as it was also a BTN national broadcast, was a really great opportunity for us.
I like how you mentioned too that anytime that you get a new challenge, you always seem to rise to that challenge and eclipse it. Why do you think that you're able to do that?
I think this group is just hungry for that next step. You hear coaches speak all the time about being process driven. The reason they do is because that's the recipe. You know, you have to be focused on your day and giving your best, and each opponent provides unique challenges. While we've been able to sustain a certain level of play, often a certain formation, there's still adjustments that have to be made to your opponent. I think that brings you know, fresh perspective to each match, and you only get to play these teams once a year, so you only get one opportunity to make an impression, and I think there's a lot of belief. You know, when you set out, you play the non-conference schedule we did, you have strong results. The one loss is to a top 5 opponent in Arkansas, and when you start having those results, that momentum continues to move forward, and you believe you can go and beat anybody.
Aspect 2 of, you mentioned fun. You brought that up so many times about just how much you're having fun, but also this is a fun group. We've touched upon some of the women who make this team fun, but what other parts about your team would you describe as fun? Like, what adds to that?
Yeah, I mean, they are a great group. I mean, this is an eclectic blend of personalities. But what makes it really special is they all adhere to the standards of the program. They're incredibly committed to this. They work really hard, and family being that third pillar of ours, I mean, they exemplify those things. It's not always going to be smooth. Sometimes you're going to have a disagreement or a different opinion, but it's about respecting each other, and because we have so many different personalities, sometimes it's expressed through some hard-nosed, tough conversations, and sometimes it's through humor. When you got a player like Lauren DeBow that can lighten the mood, but also light a spark for your team, it just makes, you know, for a well-balanced, well-rounded experience. No one takes themselves too seriously while also giving their best effort every time out.
You knew that Lauren Kozel was primed for a pretty good year for you guys, All-American goalkeeper, but how would you best describe how she is playing right now?
Yeah, we're seeing a pro in the college game. You know, she just continues to get better all the time. She's very focused on her craft, and she's a great teammate. You know, she knows how to connect with everyone in the group. She's confident enough to say the things that need to be said. You know, I talked about being demanding, but also like gracious at times, because while we have some, you know, very experienced, even 5th-year players in our program, we still have 10 freshmen in this group. We have 7 transfers, some of those being underclassmen. I try to coach in a way that we adhere to a certain standard as a group, but I have to coach each individual a little bit different. And I think Lauren Kozel does a good job of recognizing those things and implementing that same type of style.
Right now, the Spartans are deadlocked at the top of the Big Ten standings with number 5 Northwestern, who they play on Sunday in Evanston. As always, we hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show. Have a happy and healthy weekend.